Have you ever been to an NFL game? Better yet, have you ever been to literally any sporting event? If the answer to that question is yes, then congratulations, you're in the right place. You also probably know that when you go to the event, that you have to go through security, where guards will check your bags to make sure you're not bringing in anything that could conceivably be used as a weapon. Now, each stadium has different policies with what you are allowed to bring in and what must stay behind. There are some stadiums where you can bring in closed liquids, and others where you can't bring in anything. And there are some stadiums that allow you to bring in food and recording equipment that others might not allow you to, like SoFi Stadium, where you're not allowed to bring in an iPad. It's best to check before going to any event what the stadium will allow you to bring in and what they will not allow you to bring in, so that you don't have to make the walk of shame back to your car, or so you don't have to discard an item that you spent some money on. However, there are some items that are universally frowned upon, and that you don't need to look at a website to figure out whether it's banned or not, because it's just common sense. For example, mace. To the surprise of absolutely no one, you cannot enter an NFL stadium and bring in mace. For those who don't know what mace is, it's a spray, just like pepper spray, that produces tear gas. As you might expect, getting hit directly in the face with pepper spray freaking sucks. Your eyes can burn, you can have trouble breathing, your skin can hurt, and you might even go blind for a bit. It's a burning sensation that can cause temporary respiratory problems, and using pepper spray or mace on a person can result in being charged with assault and battery. So if you're at an NFL stadium and you try to bring mace in, seeing as you're around a lot of people and it's a gas that causes lots of pain, you are going to be asked to remove the mace. I'm not saying that there aren't extremely valid reasons for carrying around pepper spray, mace, or anything like that, just like there aren't extremely valid reasons for having a firearm. However, you can completely understand why these items are not allowed inside an NFL stadium, especially at an event where the average person is going to be somewhat under the influence. Well, turns out rules just didn't exist in 1990. Turns out no one knew what the hell they were doing, because apparently in 1990, mace was not a banned substance, and you were free to bring mace into an NFL game. Seriously. Keep in mind that today, at New York sporting venues, they don't even allow you to keep the bottle cap on top of the water, because you could use the cap as a projectile. And yet, a generation ago, we were just letting people into NFL games with mace with 70,000 people in close proximity. And how do we know this? Because during this game right here, between the Cleveland Browns and the Denver Broncos at Mile High Stadium, sure enough, someone decided to use mace. The results were, unsurprisingly, predictable, and more than 35 years later, it deserves a deep dive for just how insane it was. Because this is the story behind what might just be, considering the circumstances, the craziest incident in Monday Night Football history, and the time that, apparently, you could bring mace into a football game. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, hype up that video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel, because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL, with stories like this one that you may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing, and for hyping up the video, and for helping us grow this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about the time that Bronco fans, quite literally, wanted to gouge their eyes out watching their team play. But before I talk about the attack and just how insane this entire situation was, we need some context to understand how the game itself went, as well as the importance of this one. It's October 8th, 1990. It's week 5 of the NFL season, and we've got a Monday Night Football game on our hands over at Mile High Stadium between the Cleveland Browns and the Denver Broncos, in what has quickly become one of the best rivalries in football. The Browns and Broncos had met 3 times in the last 4 years in the AFC Championship, including the previous season in 1989, where the Broncos won the game to advance to Super Bowl 24, in a game that you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. Combine that with a regular season game between the teams in 1989, where the Browns won on a walk-off field goal, the drive, and the fumble, and it felt like every time these teams met, something was about to happen. Sure enough, something was about to happen in this game, but we'll get to that in a bit. Both the Broncos and Browns have been struggling to start off the 1990 season, with the Browns entering this game at 1-3 after a 3-game losing streak, and the Broncos entering at 2-2. With both teams off to uncharacteristically slow starts, this was a big game in front of a national television audience to potentially get back on the right track, and in the case of the Broncos, avoid dropping their second straight game and avoid dropping below 500. And to say that this was a frustrating game for the Broncos would be putting it lightly. Midway through the fourth quarter, the Broncos led it 29-20, leading it by 2 touchdowns. Over the final 3.5 minutes, the Browns scored 10 points, including a walk-off field goal from 30 yards out, just like how the 1989 regular season meeting ended between the teams, and they won the game 30-29. Losing is always frustrating, but the way that the Broncos lost this one was almost inconceivable. With the Browns trailing 29-20, they converted not 1, but 2 fourth-down conversions. On the ensuing drive for the Broncos, they lost 7 yards, going 3 and out. This was followed up by the Browns going 3 for 3 on 3rd down to then walk off the Broncos. This was a collapse that was death by 1,000 cuts, and this was a game where John Elway was not even close to at his best, as he finished the day going 16 for 33, completing less than 50% of his passes for 175 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a passer rating of 39.3, which is worse than if he did nothing but spike the ball into the ground on every single play. This game felt like the omen of what was to come for the Broncos in 1990, and this game felt like the moment people realized that we would not be seeing the Broncos back in the Super Bowl, as they were no longer the class of the AFC, but rather were a broken team on both sides of the ball. If their 1-point loss to Buffalo the previous week signaled a changing of the guard in the conference, then this nationally televised collapse, which was Cleveland's first win in Denver since 1972, cemented it. And after the game, there were frustrations not just from the players, but from the fans, especially those who had been drinking. After 1990, things started to change, but in 1990 and before, it was basically the Wild West from an alcohol perspective once you got into the stadium. They wouldn't cut you off, and there wasn't an ending like there is today, where sales might get cut off at the end of the third quarter. Back in 1990, at most venues, they'd serve throughout the entire game. Combine that with the fact that this was a Monday Night Football game, meaning that by the time the game ended, it was roughly 10:15 local time, so fans had been drinking and pre-gaming all day, and some exhaustion could set in due to the late nature of the game. And yeah, this is somewhat of a security nightmare. There's a reason why some teams, like the New England Patriots, outlawed Monday night games at their place for this specific reason. So you've got a heartbreaking collapse with a late game with people drinking alcohol. Already, this feels like a recipe for disaster. Now, factor in freaking Mace, and it's about to get a whole lot worse. Because after the game, 2 drunken fans were causing a ruckus. We're not entirely sure about the details of what the ruckus entailed, or whether the person in question was being threatened, but they were being disorderly enough that one woman was not having it. So the woman decided to reach into her belongings and sprayed them with mace. This was right after the game, and because it was a close game, no one left their seats until it was done. So based on all accounts, this act of spraying the drunken fans with mace was done in the crowded concourse. The good news for the woman was that she was able to successfully spray the fans, causing problems. Mission accomplished. The bad news was that because mace is a gas and it spreads, she ended up spraying a slew of other fans who were just standing there doing nothing. They just wanted to get back home and get into their cars. And now, they were dealing with mace in their face. According to Dr. Michael Bronco, the first aid doctor at Mile High Stadium, 10 to 15 people were squirted in the face. It created a bit of turmoil. She got the perpetrators, but all of the rest of the people were innocent bystanders. They just got in the way of the spray. Yeah, I think a bit of turmoil is putting it lightly, seeing as you have no idea what just hit you, but once you get hit, you feel like you're going to die, and everything hurts. And while Bronco said that 10 to 15 people were squirted in the face, you have to take other things into account. Number one, that's just the number of people that decided to go to first aid and knew where that was, or were clearly injured and had to be escorted over there. I'm sure there were other people who didn't go to first aid and just decided to tough it out or wait it out. Number two, while 10 to 15 people were squirted in the face, that doesn't mean that it didn't get on other body parts from other bystanders and irritate their skin in uncomfortable ways. While roughly 15 people were in first aid being treated because a fan brought mace into the stadium, many more were impacted by this too, albeit in less severe ways. And this might come as a surprise to you, but the woman who sprayed everyone, she wasn't charged. She was not charged with anything. I'm not sure whether the police decided that what she did was in self-defense and she needed to defend herself, and everyone else was just unfortunately in the wrong place at the wrong time, or whether the fans that got sprayed just didn't want to deal with this, or what the story was there. But there were no charges filed. I don't know what's crazier, that or the fact that this might not have even been the craziest story involving a Broncos fan dealing with that loss, seeing as another fan watching the game at home was so distraught about the loss that he pointed a rifle at his wife, fired the weapon in the backyard, and got into a 4-hour standoff with the police before finally getting arrested. I don't even know what to say about that one. To the surprise of absolutely no one, today, if you tried this stunt, you would not be able to go through the stadium gates. You are not allowed to bring in any weapons to Empower Field at Mile High. And while it's never explicitly defined as to what a weapon is, like other stadiums have defined, I'm fairly confident that items such as mace and pepper spray would absolutely qualify. If you want to try it for yourself and test whether you can bring it into the Broncos stadium, be my guest. But I don't think it's going to end well for you. Just a hunch. Regardless, the fact that something like this was allowed to happen during this game right here that you've been watching this entire time is just fascinating. There are certain things when you look back on from previous generations and you just wonder, how was this ever allowed? And how was this ever a thing? Being allowed to bring mace into an NFL game definitely qualifies as that. Because on this Monday night in 1990, after the Broncos lost, a bunch of their fans felt like they were, quite literally, punched in the face. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name at the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.